Good afternoon guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to something I want to do for the open week, and something to talk about for you at your golf course is thinking about club selection when it comes into this part of the season, this part of the summer, when we finally have some good weather in the UK, and changing what clubs we have in the bag to maybe help us a little bit easier, or make the game a little bit easier for us. So with it being open week, one thing you'll see a lot of on the TV if you're watching it is people using 2-irons. So here we have the Stealth TaylorMade UDI. So all the manufacturers will have a driving iron, there's plenty of them out on the market, and it's a club that for this time of the year could be something that you might put into your bag, you might invest in, because it might be a little bit more beneficial than something like, although I don't want to say it, the Trusty 7 would. So it's something that you could put in there. It might be something different to a hybrid, which is designed to launch higher. Even you can get this with a regular shaft, something that's going to help you launch the ball lower, and it's going to run out more and a little bit more direct. And this is where you have to think about your course management. So obviously on the second hole here at Waterfront, the bunker is something that comes into play. So you'll see that on many a video, we've got to think about, is a 3-wood going to leave me short? Today it's into the breeze. I'll be trying to maybe hit a driver a little bit harder. It goes up into the breeze, takes a lot of the distance out. That might then bring in the bunker into play. Here I can play underneath the wind, get this ball running, get it chasing down there a little bit more direct, and without doing a lot, get plenty of distance. So with this club, it is designed obviously to go lower. It's something that's going to be a little bit more penetrating ball flight, but a few things we can do it set up to play that shot is to knock the ball a little bit back into our stance. But what we see then is what that'll encourage to do is the path to work out to the right. So as a result, I need to make sure that I do open my stance a little bit if I am nudging that back. And again, a common thing we see is that a lot of people will try and hold it off, which you can see clearly there, will leave the face open, and that's where we start to see weak ones, little sly shots, ones that we really get no real contact on, and it doesn't go far. So then you think, what's the point in me having this? To get obviously the ball to go low, what we want to focus on mainly when the ball's back is making sure we turn our chest through. So by turning the chest, that's going to encourage the club back into this position with a little bit of forward shaft lean, and a lower ball flight will then come up a little bit back in the stance, nice and controlled. Don't try and hit at it. So just up the right hand side there towards the bunker, and that should be in play. And that's where it's going to be short of the bunker, it's launched a little bit lower, a little bit more control on that, and then from there this might be then a club that I can get chasing towards the front of the green. So think about the holes at your course. You might be able to get there with 2-irons because it's going to go lower, it's going to chase probably 50-60 yards. You might get this just as far as your driver, which is going to launch a lot higher and be affected by the wind. So that's something, when you get into these conditions, it is a club that we might have in the bag. So the next thing you're going to see a lot this week is going to be something like this. So Ping's new Glide 4.0 wedges, but for the open this week they're going to have the dreaded 60 probably, but with a T-grind and 6 degrees of bounce. So bounce is something that gets confused about a lot. Obviously a lot of people say, well, I don't know what bounce I need, when would I need it, how is it going to help me? So when we're playing off this kind of lie, which you're going to see a lot this week, if you play links golf, if you play somewhere that is pretty firm all year round, then you're wanting to get a wedge setup where you're not going to have much bounce. Because the bounce here, if we have a lot of bounce, it's going to do exactly what it says. We're going to bottom out early, it's going to bounce the club off the ground, and you're going to catch the middle of the ball. We're going to see a lot of thins, a lot of ones through the green. Whereas if you're playing more parkland courses, grass is a little bit longer. If you're playing in the States and you're on Bermuda grass, you're going to be able to have more bounce on your club because there's a little bit of grass underneath the golf ball, which is where it's designed, where you can open it. So if you're playing off these kind of lies and we're playing a shot like this, which we need a little bit of loft, we're going to flight it in there. I wouldn't normally hit a 60, but for this occasion we're going to use it. We would be looking at getting that club face square. So we're going to use the leading edge. So if you're somebody, and this is where it's very important to get fitted for your wedges, you need to know what kind of angle of attack you have. If you're somebody who is very steep onto the golf ball, and if you're playing a parkland course and you get no real bounce on your club, you're going to take very big divots, you're going to be limited to what you can do, and it's going to be very hard for you. If you watch James' video explaining this, he hit a couple of the dreaded shanks because he tried to open it up and didn't play it correctly. So here I would get that club face nice and square, and for this shot then we're able just to pick it up off there. It's just a nice motion back and through, and we see how that's launched nice and low with a lot of spin. That's stopped within a yard, so I can pick that up nice and clean it, and even with a 60 there, that's launching very low with a lot of spin. It is a brand new wedge with brand new grooves, which also does help the occasion, but you'll see I can still get that to launch low off a tight lie with a 60 by having it square. If I had that open, we'd start to see that would drop kick, that I wouldn't get the strike, we might get some topspin on there, and that would then run out. So I'm going to show you now another wedge which has a lot of bounce. So here we can see two totally different wedges here. So we've got the 60 degree I've just used with the T grind and 6 degrees bounce, and then something here on the right, a 56 degree with a W grind and 14 degrees of bounce. So you can see the difference in the bounce on those clubs, and that's going to make it much harder for me to get a strike on here. From a tight lie, a lie that a lot of people don't like, especially when they come into this time of the year, it's going to be very hard. We're going to have that pretty square. If you're somebody who digs it in, it might get you a little bit steep, so you want to be thinking about what your shot selection is around. So you will have seen, if you've been watching the Open the last couple of days, is you'll have seen some different shots around the green. They may have gone away from playing the 60, but we're going to play a shot shortly just off the edge of the green off a tight lie. They might be playing different clubs around there to get the ball running, and I'll put a little bit of a clip of Tiger, which I saw on Tuesday, hitting different chip shots using the bump and run a lot around there and using an iron. But we're going to show you how you could use the UDI around the green to get the ball rolling and get it running up to the flag, or even something like an 8-iron or a 7 wood. But obviously using something with a lot of bounce would be very difficult around the old course. So you can see there, guys, if I have that club level to the ground, you'll see the bounce is the bottom angle, so you can see it angles down closer to the ground. So here you can see it slopes upwards this way. So obviously what that's going to encourage that to do with the bounce, to get that level to the ground to get a contact, I'm going to have a lot of forward shaft lean. So a lot of forward shaft lean, and that's something I wouldn't recommend. So if you're steep, and if you then have to have a lot of forward shaft lean, that's going to get the face pointing right. So then we're going to have to adjust and aim a little bit open, get the hands really far forwards. And if you're steep, what it's going to encourage you to do is that ball to come off too fast, too low, and not have any spin and not have any control. So then what you're probably better off doing is moving to something like an 8-iron, maybe even a pitching wedge out of your set, or even a 3 wood. Because there's nothing in front of you, there's no real trouble to go over, we can get the ball rolling off this tight lie, which nobody likes, instead of using the club that might be great in the winter, might be great for the most of the season, but those 4 weeks in the summer where we finally get a bit of good weather, it's not really a club that you can use for this kind of shot. But here, like I said, what I would have to do is take a lot of loft off. So I've got the hands forwards to get that club level. I've opened my stance because the face would point a little bit right. I'm going to have to do a lot to get a good contact and towards the target. So that's launched a little bit high. That's popped up on me there because I've got steep. It's ballooned into the wind. Again, hands forwards and a little bit down, it might ride the face and pop up. And that's then gone a little bit closer than the 60 degree, but I've had to do a lot of work to get a strike onto that, and it's not something that's going to be consistent. That wedge there with a little bit less bounce, even a 60 degree launched half the height of that, a lot more direct with a lot of spin, because I've squared that leading edge up and the club has done the work. So this is really, guys, where it's very important to get fitted for your wedges. Think about what club you're at, what kind of shots you play, start to see what your divot pattern is, to see if you're somebody who is steep on the ball, or if you're shallow you could go to something with less bounce. Also, then you have to think about what kind of bunkers you've got. So obviously at the Open there's a lot of pot bunkers, the sand's normally quite firm, there's not a lot of sand in there, so they're going to be going with low bounce, probably a squarer leading edge to get that ball out. If we're somewhere where we've got a lot of sand in the bunkers, a lot of bounce is going to be your friend, because we can be a little bit more aggressive and that's going to work through the sand a little bit better. So guys, have a think about it. What's in your bag at the moment? What are you thinking about? There is something that you can put in the top of the bag, so you might think about putting in a UDI, a 2-iron, something that's going to help you in these conditions, keep it low out of the wind, get it running, be nice and consistent, especially like what you'll see at the Open. But then for me on the short game side, getting fitted for your wedges, getting the correct bounce for the golf club you play at mainly, getting the right one for the conditions, and knowing when you can and you can't use them. Here, if you've got high bounce, you've got no real grass on your golf course at the moment, it's very firm, very hard, I'll be staying away from using your wedges in this kind of situation. I'll be getting something out a little bit like an 8-iron or a 3-wood, get that rolling across the ground. We can be a lot more consistent, under control. So these are the things you'll see, guys, at the Open. I will be doing a review on the Glide 4.0s and comparing them to last year's wedges, so keep an eye out for that. But guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again later in the week.